Hello and welcome to episode 21. I'm your one-time retraction cyber new type, the Dapper Bard. Apparently, last episode, I was wrong about the fate of Shattuck. He did get captured and did not escape. The sad thing is, I re-watched that scene a couple of times because I wasn't sure what was going on after the explosion. The way it is framed does not make it clear. My first draft had a line about him getting captured, and on the rewrite before I recorded, I second-guessed myself and changed it. It goes to show how chaotic and occasionally difficult to follow the visuals can be during the battles, and even the post-battles. Okay, retraction done, let's get started with this review. We open with the ruins of the school. Many students look hurt, and it turns out they have been there for at least a little while after the battle from last episode. Mary Suletta, obviously unharmed, is handing out blankets to the students before we go to the opening sequence. We continue with Yule getting a call about Petra being in critical condition because the writers are too scared to kill off a minor character. Yule then enters Mirine's office, where her staff is discussing the results of the previous battle. Yule visits Mirine, who is broken up about everything that has happened. There is very little Yule can do for Mirine, as she believes that all the deaths are on her hands. At this point, we see Shattuck in custody and learn that his angels are imprisoned too. He laments his failure and admits to some of his mistakes. He also tries to apologize to Mirine, who also admits some of this was her fault as well. We then cut to the school as Mary Suletta hands out tomatoes to students. Again, I must ask, who eats a tomato like an apple? That aside, we learn that Suletta has been refrigerating the tomatoes that they have harvested. As the Earth Kids go out to give people tomatoes, Martin stops Nika to talk. She says that she is going to leave the school and atone for her mistakes. This more or less ends Martin's character arc. Wow, it's good to know this nothing of a character had an arc, while most of our leads have had nothing. As Mary Suletta and friends hand out tomatoes, they are approached by Bell and an agent of the Space Assembly League. We are told the Space Assembly League is an organization dedicated to resolving problems amongst the various groups in space. After that, we cut to an assembly meeting. At the meeting, they point out all the crimes that the Benerit group has committed. This includes attacks on the school, attacks on Earth, and Quiet Zero. They then announce that they will take down the group by force if necessary. Okay, I need a moment, because this information changes the paradigm with which I view the series. If I understand this correctly, the Space Assembly League is essentially the space government, or space congress perhaps. This whole time, I was under the impression that the Benerit group was the de facto government. They aren't. Which means, despite how important the Assembly is to this universe, they didn't play a major role in the story until this point. This isn't even sloppy storytelling. This is a young child telling a story, then interrupting their story because they forgot to tell you about this one thing. More than that, the Assembly comes off as a paper tiger due to the fact that up until now, the Benerit group has been allowed to run wild. It's like there was no law in space until the writers remembered that, oh yeah, there is! And now we see them flex because the audience needs to take them seriously as a threat. The issues that come up between the Benerit group and the Assembly would have made for interesting world building and conflict, but instead, we get tomatoes. Getting back to the story, we see Yule with Mio's team trying to deal with this news before the president of Grassley calls to tell Mirine that she needs to disavow Grassley. However, she goes against this because she doesn't want to sacrifice more people. Back with Earthdorm, they are questioned about Quiet Zero, and Suletta is asked to negotiate with her mother. However, Suletta says no, because she isn't her real daughter, and tells everyone that she isn't who they think she is. Suletta gives a general outline of her history to everyone there. How she is a clone, how Aerie is the Ariel, how Suletta has been a cog in a scheme. However, she also notes that she is happy having gone to school and having met everybody. This brings up some major issues with Mary Suletta. First off, she has no value to the story. Prospera could have just gotten the funding or assistance of the Benerit group without the need of a daughter going to school. She had tech they wanted, they had resources she needed, why take an extra convoluted step? Second, while it is nice that losing the Ariel is giving Suletta the chance to develop a personality and grow, it comes too late in the show and doesn't make up for all the wasted time. Third, it makes our lead a fraud because she lacks any real MS piloting skills because Ariel did all the hard work. I want to point out that every Gundam protag is or learns to be a talented pilot, except Suletta. Beyond that, they often show other skills like technical know-how, traditional combat abilities, or even charisma. She has never shown off any secondary skills, and I don't count her emotional counseling because she doesn't do much, and the problems tend to just solve themselves instantly. The worst part is, she could have been an interesting character who has to deal with identity issues due to being a clone, emotional issues due to having a very horrible mother, and perhaps she would have had skills that she would have learned on Mercury that could have been useful to the story. We get none of that, and it's all due to how bad the writing is. Due to this writing, Suletta might end up going down as the worst Gundam protagonist. After Suletta's confession, the assembly agent asks her to use the Gundam prototype they found in the ruins of the facility from 21 years ago. Nika interrupts to point out Suletta will be hurt if she uses a Gundam, and she also points out how much of a monster Belle is due to the research she conducted. Belle breaks down and cries, but Suletta accepts piloting the unit so she can talk to Eri and her mother one last time. It took 21 episodes, but slowly, Suletta is growing as a character and trying to be something of a hero. Better late than never. Then again, better never late. We close out the episode with the Ariel connecting to Quiet Zero, which is a colony-sized weapon. So basically a Death Star that hacks the planet. Literally. The assembly fleet moves in, and Quiet Zero sends out drones that they fight for a little bit before Eri unleashes the data storm and turns everything off. The drones wipe out the entire fleet. We see a few reactions to this, including Miorine crying and the Earth Dorm showing their resolve to take down Quiet Zero. Then we see Elon 5 ask to join them, and Suletta accepts if he tells her more about Elon 4. He agrees, and we are off towards the final arc. The final part of the episode is Lada blaming Miorine for all the problems he and the Jaturk house have faced. I think we're supposed to take him seriously, but I'd point out that throughout all of Season 1, I couldn't remember his name. So, no, I don't take him seriously, and I don't think he'll be much of a threat. And he will only be a threat because the writers want him to be. While streaming Super Robot Wars with my brother, we often talk about this show. In fact, some of the points I bring up in these reviews comes from those discussions. Oftentimes, we make crazy jokes about where the story should go. One of those times was when we compared this show to G Gundam and discussed how much better G Gundam handles similar issues. This led to a joke about how the final boss for this series should be the Ariel colony. It was one of the dumbest things we thought could happen in this show, but we assumed they wouldn't go full stupid. So when it actually happened, my mind was kind of blown. The writers did the dumbest plot point my brother and I could come up with. This is so stupid and impossible that it defies logic. Our jokes are not meant to be reality. They are meant to be a way to make our viewers get a laugh. Yet, here we are. Jokes are reality, and the series is so bad, it would have been improved had it been written by ChatGPT. Despite the ending, there were some good moments in this episode. However, this episode also highlights many of the problems this series has. There are some really good ideas in this show, and yet they are handled with the precision of rusted scissors cutting plastic. The good side is that the show is almost over. I've gone from loving it, to liking it, to hating it, to laughing at it, and I'm curious how I will feel once the series concludes. At this point, there is no saving this ship. It is just a matter of how deep it will sink. Before I close out, I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed. I keep seeing the numbers rise, and that makes this all worth it. If you haven't joined the party, please subscribe, like, and share, all that stuff. And until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.